Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR, HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Welcome to RadioAMB, designed for those who want to live a long and vibrant life. I'm Patty Smucker, your host, and someone who's been in the beauty industry for over 40 years. RadioAMB, which stands for American-Made Beauty, is designed to tell the secrets behind the making of health, beauty, fashion brands. And our program is sponsored today by Free Your Mane. You can go to freeyourmane.com. That's spelled M-A-N-E. And you can put in Radio AMB at checkout, get a 30% discount. And you can also find Free Your Mane products at Anthropologie stores. Well, for those of you who are just getting into the new year, it's been already very exciting with our program. And, you know, in every industry, there are people who work behind the scenes that you never hear or see from. In the White House, for example, people run the home and they take care of the first families for decades. In the film industry, there's people that work in the editing room and slice together the masterpieces that we see on the screen. And that kind of people is the same in the beauty industry, people in the manufacturing of product, like our guest today, Richard Garza of Advanced Cosmetic Research Labs, who's been working for years behind the scenes of some of the brands that are sitting in your shower right now, from concept of raw materials to finished goods. You'll meet Richard today and learn how he got into the business, what he does every day in his job, and what someone who's interested in pursuing this kind of career can learn from him. In our segment that we call In the Jar, today we're going to be talking about In the Jar, ingredients, what's new, innovative, and what you're going to start to see in products in the near future. In the segment we call Beauty That's Soul Deep today, with Richard, we're going to talk about one of those activities that we do as human beings that stirs our soul, sex. We're going to talk about personal lubricants. And in our final segment called Beauty Biz, we'll show you, talk a little bit more about the key things that if you're considering engaging the services of a contract manufacturer, what are some of the things you need to know? So again, remember that our program sponsor is Free Your Mane. That's Free Your Mane, M-A-N-E, and you can find them in Anthropologie stores. With that said, let's get started. So welcome, Richard. We're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you, Patty. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me on.
So back in September, Richard, we had a program with Brian McGee of BAM Navigation, and for those of you that missed that, go back and listen to that show. You can hear it on my website, American Made Beauty. Today we're going to go a little bit deeper because Brian was sort of the guy that works with brand owners to sort of conceive the brand and figure out what they wanted to do. But with Richard, we're going to go into the manufacturing process even further because Richard's the guy that Brian McGee would go to at a contract manufacturing company. Richard, can you start, first of all, by telling us a little bit about your role at Advanced Cosmetic Research Labs? What actually do you do in your job?
Sure, no problem. Well, I've been with Advanced now about 16 years, so my role has kind of changed throughout the years naturally. So currently, though, I am what they call the Research and Development Coordinator and Senior Project Manager. And basically my role at Advanced Cosmetic is to make sure that anybody who comes in to start business with us is able to do so and get their projects done through a timely manner. I basically start from the very beginning of their concept by submitting these to our chemists to work on their process and then making sure that once it goes through the approval process that the first purchase order that gets into our hands gets through the system timely. So I kind of see everything from the very beginning to the very end of the process, and that is my role to make sure everybody's in coordination of making sure that happens for any customer or client that comes to us.
Okay, cool. And so tell us, I mean, this is very interesting. You're physically involved in every aspect of taking, you know, powders and all of the raw materials that go into making a product to buy all of the ingredients, to put it all together, to create a formula, to actually mix it, put the components together. You're involved in every aspect of that.
That is correct. I even help with trying to come up with a new concept. That is also my role in looking at the new raw materials. And I will help in supporting and finding packaging if that matters to a customer. And if they don't want to deal with that factor, that's what I'm here for. That's my process, is to make sure that they can basically wash their hands and just give us their story and let me take care of it from there to make sure it gets to market as they wish to have it.
Right. So tell us, Richard, how did you get in? It's 16 years ago. What led you to get involved in this kind of business? Is there a particular type of education that somebody needs to do the job you do?
Well, it's interesting. I kind of have a funny story of how I kind of fell into this program because, you know, this business, I kind of just landed in my lap. Basically, it was never my full-time goal to come into the cosmetic industry. I just kind of fell into it. And the way that started was initially I am a ballroom dance teacher. And that my career path was to be a dancer, and that was my role and where I thought I would be going and opening my own studio eventually. But in my teaching of ballroom, I had a molecular biologist that I used to have as a student, and she had her own skincare line, and in our history of working together for a couple of years, she eventually asked me to come work for her. And that's kind of how I fell into the skincare business. And I initially just started as an administrative background, based helping support her in the offices, and then kind of, you know, after my experience with her, we kind of moved on, and I just kind of came to Advance on a whim to try to find something else to do, and this is how I landed here, and that was like almost 20 years ago when I started in the business, and then 16 years ago when I started here. So as a result, I just kind of self-taught. I got so passionate about cosmetics and the ingredients and the packaging, and I just wanted to learn everything I can from our chemists and from our suppliers and anything I can do to do that. So that's how I learned. I just learned from my experience of being here. And that's how I feel like anybody should learn is, you know, get your hands wet and try to find out for yourself what is out there. I mean, obviously education is important. I would never deter that, but this is how my process went, and this is how I've learned to come to do what I do. So I'm very proud of that.
And what I love about it is again, we've been saying for the last year that we've been doing this program is that this industry is so exciting because there's a ton of different pathways into the industry, and once you're in it, like you went to work for a brand owner, basically as an administrative person, but you learn the ropes, you learn the business, and it gave you enough experience for you to take the leap to go from working for a brand owner to actually working for a manufacturing facility.
That's correct.
It's pretty exciting. Now, but so you jumped in, and I mean, were you afraid that you weren't going to know what to do?
You know, you always have that initial reaction when you start any business, I would say. And, you know, when I first started here, it was more of a support role to our sales team as their assistants to get there. And so I kind of just learned from them the process that they were doing to get the sales out there. So, and, you know, of course, you know, just kind of listening and just paying attention matters when you're learning the ropes of a new business. And that's kind of what I did. I just wanted to just absorb it all. I was like a sponge. I needed to learn everything. And even from a chemistry standpoint, they make a joke saying that I probably have the chemistry background of knowing how to make a bomb. But it's more than just saying that I learned so much, even though I'm not a chemist. A lot of people do mistake me for that because of how much I've learned.
Right.
So that's kind of, I mean, it's important, and that's what I found out when I came here, that it was important to know my job, and that's basically what it boils down to.
And so, you know, I love this. I mean, you paid attention. Paying attention matters. I love that you said that. Listening, just watching, and being a sponge, absorbing. But how would you keep yourself up to date? What were some of the things that you did to research and learn?
Well, it's important that, our suppliers do provide conferences and seminars that kind of tell you the latest and greatest ingredients. Obviously anybody can Google anything to try to get abreast of some of the ingredients and raw materials that are out there, but it was important to me to actually attend the conferences that were supplied by our suppliers to get to learn to know these raw materials and get to learn to know these trends and even, experiment with them. My thing is I would find something I thought was really interesting, and I would come to my chemist and just say, let's try this at this level and let's see what happens. And that's kind of how things come about.
Right.
We do get a lot of clinical support and substantiation from our suppliers, but sometimes you just got to try it to make sure what they're stating is correct. And so attending the SAC and whatever, which is like cosmetic chemist, conferences and things of that nature, actually helped in this process. And that's where my education came from.
Well, and it's interesting because we had a guest on the show not too long ago who was a cosmetic chemist, but a cosmetic chemist for like the big companies. And one of the things that he talked about was the idea that there's a lot of vanity ingredients in that, it's the next greatest and latest ingredient, and most of them don't do anything. But part of our industry is really doing exactly what you're talking about, which is working with the suppliers that have done tests to validate that if they're making a claim with regards to an ingredient, they actually have to have clinical substantiation, clinical tests that verify that if an ingredient is in a certain percentage, it really will do what the claims say that they're doing. Isn't that the way the industry works?
Yes, exactly. So it's funny because everybody wants to add something into their story, but to me, and the importance of claiming what your product is doing is to have the backing, and I think it's great that the suppliers do offer the clinicals to let you know, okay, this is where it's been tested, and this is what we know is going to change the structure of a skin or whatever the claim might be, and it's very important to know that and to have that. Now, unfortunately, the downside to it is sometimes it's not cost effective to use it because depending on how active these ingredients, it can get kind of costly, which probably we'll talk about later on. But, so you really have to know your demographic, know your marketing to understand how you're going to introduce your product and these clinical substantiations in the product to be able to support it. So it's something you definitely have to review.
Yeah, and I'd like to educate, particularly our listeners who are consumers. And one of the ways you can tell whether an ingredient is in there for just vanity is that they may be promoting that particular ingredient, but they're not giving you any kind of statistical numbers that verify whatever the claim is. So, for example, if they're utilizing an ingredient that is supposed to visibly reduce the sign of lines and wrinkles, there should be a percentage or a number or some kind of study that's been done, and that should be on their website. That should be something that you can see, and the reason why they're able to do that is because they have either done the testing themselves on that product or they're utilizing that ingredient in the product in a percentage that is equal to or greater than the raw material supplier's testing that was done. So that's really, really an important aspect that consumers need to know. Go and look. When a brand is making a claim, go and look at their website because it will inform you a great deal about the validity of these claims because they should have some kind of substantiation. And, Richard, with your work, you're the guy that's sort of gathering all of that and knowing what that research is and at what percentage the ingredient needs to be used.
Yes, that's correct. I definitely I actually let clients know this. I have many clients who always want to just be able to market claim those ingredients, but you try to use the same data. And I've always said, unfortunately, if you're going to make these claims, we got to make sure we're using the percentages that the claims are made at. And so that's my job. That's my job to educate my customers to understand the difference and make sure they're on that same page as regards to what they're promoting.
Right. Okay. So what is your most favorite part of the job that you do? What do you love most about it?
The development. I love to just come out with the concept. You know, I love when a client just kind of gives me free rein to help bring their dream to fruition. And, you know, I like to do the raw material and figure out what, you know, based on what story they are trying to give, what I can bring to them that is kind of unique. And even on the packaging side, just finding the right packaging fit that will fit into their budget and to their demographic. I love that process. That's my favorite part of the process, is just the beginnings of the development. Of course, it could be challenging just in trying to get the right product out there for the client, you know, which is normal, and that's what we're here for. But that process is the best part of it all. And then, of course, the reward when you do see it finally on the shelves. Obviously, that's a great feeling. You know that what you've done has made it to its final point, and that's always our ultimate goal. Right.
What's something that you really don't like about the job?
Well, the problem is having to disappoint anybody in their process. You know, unfortunately, you want to be honest about, you know, what you can do in the development process, and unfortunately sometimes people have higher expectations and even try to come out with stuff that's not necessarily realistic in terms of development that you have to, unfortunately, you know, school the customer on, which is not always a good feeling. You know, everybody wants to believe that whatever they're stating is going to work, and sometimes it doesn't. And we just have to be honest with that. And I'm always straightforward with my clients, letting them know that, you know, yes, this is possible, or no, unfortunately, this is not possible. But we'll look for something around it to make them happy, because we always want them to be able to feel comfortable with whatever they're putting out there.
And can you think of what's the craziest request that you've ever had?
Well, I'm currently working on a project that's actually been a little bit of a challenge. A customer really wants to have a kind of a body spray that's a camouflage type product that almost works like a foundation that lasts for a week, that will actually cover the skin but won't wash off.
For a full week.
For a full week. And so unless I'm staining the skin with either a sunless tanner or a bronzer, that's not really something that can happen. So unfortunately, we do come across this, but I am trying to at least do something that is in that application, but will work a little bit, you know, at least try to work, but I'm still struggling with trying to get to work for a week. So that is definitely some kinds of requests that we get that we in tune know may never be possible, but we'll do what we can to maybe, if I get a day, I'll be very happy. And that's my goal.
And that is the fun part about it, is that you really are innovating. You are, you know, people come to you with ideas and say, we want it to do X. We want it to look like this, smell like this, and you're basically engineering. You're starting and creating something that has not, in some cases, have never been done before. Is there Is there a product that you've done over the last almost 20 years that when you started it, you didn't think that it was going to be possible?
Well, there is, and, you know, unfortunately, I have to protect my customers, and, you know, because we definitely are a contract manufacturer, and that's part of the contract manufacturer. We always want to protect our customers, so as much as I'd like to disclose that information, I have to be careful with who I divulge, because they, you know, we do know that our customers want to be private in regards to where they're making their things. So I apologize. I'd like to tell you that, but I don't like, unfortunately, I can't give too much information.
And I apologize for putting you on the spot there. And again, for our consumers that are listening, you know, contract manufacturers, and I oftentimes say this, there's, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 different brands of shampoo in the marketplace, and somewhere near closer to 2,000 or 3,000 manufacturers in the United States of these brands. So do the math. You know, contract manufacturers are doing many, many different brands, and part of that, you know, that secrecy and the curtain that we're pulling back for you is that you don't often get to hear or see the contract manufacturer. The name that's on the brand is the brand owner, and who's actually physically making it for them isn't front and center. So, Richard, I appreciate the fact that you're doing your job well by keeping your clients' confidence.
I appreciate your understanding. It works both ways. Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. And so, what would you say if there was somebody somebody that wanted to get into this industry, in this day and age, as things are more complicated, is there a type of education that you would recommend that somebody would start out with? Is a strong science background, or what do you think?
Well, the truth of the matter is really to know your customer and what you're actually trying to do in terms of a product concern. People come up with an idea, and you really have to understand your idea and really make sure that whatever it is that the product is supposed to do is realistic in your development. And from an ingredient standpoint, usually you can leave it to the manufacturer, but in terms of the product itself, you just got to do some research on that product type, see if there's ever been anything similar out there that is already in the market. That way you can know what the history is of that product. And if it's not, that's wonderful, but just understand that you need to research whatever. If you have an active ingredient that you already have in mind, you should do a lot of research on that ingredient.
Right.
So that, you can come to, when you get to the contract manufacturer, you know exactly what it is you're trying to do.
Right. Okay. All right, great. Well, Richard, it's fun. It's just a great industry, and I personally have been working with Richard now for probably a good 10 years or more with my own brand and other clients that I've taken them to. So it's always such a great time to work with you. We're going to take a break, and just as a reminder, you're listening to RadioAMB. Our program sponsor is Free Your Mane, so you can go to freeyourmane.com. You can register for a 30% discount at checkout with the code RadioAMB. Stay tuned. When we come back for our segment we call In the Jar, we're going to talk about exciting new ingredients. We'll be right back.
Shh. Over here. Here's a secret for a virus-free computer. ESET. They've been a pioneer in the antivirus industry for over 25 years. 25 years of innovative, top-rated antivirus protection. ESET's award-winning security solutions provide a safe online experience for over 100 million home and business computer owners. They are so affordable, fast, and simple to use. So be gone, you blue screen of death. ESET's on my computer. If it's not on yours, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on ESET now.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
What does HealthyLife.net and Amazon.com have in common? Well, they're both available on the Internet. They both give great value. But most important, most of our positive program hosts and guests are accomplished authors, and their books are available from, you got it, Amazon.com. Now, it even gets better than that, because when you're listening on air to a HealthyLife.net host or guest, you can go directly to Amazon.com, and you can order your book while you're still listening to your favorite HealthyLife.net program. So when you hear an author you like, go to the homepage of HealthyLife.net and click on Amazon.com.
Where positive people and radio unite. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back. I'm Patty Patty Smucker, and we're here with Richard Garza of Advanced Cosmetic Research Lab. In this segment, we call In the Jar. Richard, let's talk a little bit about ingredients. I know that there are ingredients is a focus of most consumers when they're buying beauty products. What are some of the newest technologies that are happening, let's say, for example, in skincare?
Well, Patty, it's interesting because, obviously ingredients evolve over so many years, and we still have a lot of ingredients that are still old history but still very effective, which like the peptides that we see out in the markets are pretty regular and pretty much still out there and doing what they're supposed to do. And then what you also have seen lately or more recently is probably along the stem cell technology, suppliers have come out with what they call the plant stem cells, which obviously we know plants don't have stem cells, but they've come out to answer that particular ingredient, the stem cell. They've come out with plant stem cells. But for me, the latest technology that's coming out that is actually coming from overseas is the introduction of microalgae into the skincare market.
Okay.
This is a really different ingredient, and algae has been used in products before, and kelp and things of that nature. But this is kind of taking it to a whole nother level, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
For example, obviously, our original stem cells, because they are single-celled organisms, meaning they have never been the genes have never been silenced on these microalgae. So, giving us a big gamut of what they can do in skincare. One of the things that we talk about is the algae's ability to survive through the harshest environments, and therefore, because of this activity that they demonstrate, they've taken this theory of this microalgae and introduced it into skincare to get the same kind of results that the microalgae could give by itself in the environment. So this is one of the newest things that you're going to see in skincare. Microalgae were not only able to survive but created photosynthesis, the magic process to harness the sun and create life.
Right.
So basically what we're saying is unlimited biosynthetic capabilities, thanks to their generic diversity and stress management strategies, is now something they can introduce into skincare to give us some of that stress management in skin.
Right. Okay.
Which is exciting.
But talk for a moment though about plant stem cells. Is there something called plant stem cells?
There is. I mean, obviously, people have used that term, plant stem cells, but in science, plants don't technically have stem cells. So I think it was just more of a play on words, but that is the terminology that is used. And so they've come out with various plant stem cells, like, for example, apple stem cell. Plant stem cell is actually used in some hair growth factor. It's known in some of the studies to be able to grow hair. We've seen cactus that's used as a skin protectant. So there are actually stem cells that suppliers have come out that will target certain ideas of the skin and certain conditions of the skin. So,
But in reality, what you're saying, though, if I'm understanding you correctly, is these are ingredients that are coming from these botanical sources, but stem cells are from animal organisms.
That's correct.
Yeah. So the term is being used in a marketing perspective, but and these ingredients are efficacious. They're effective, but they're not actually stem cells.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
right.
correct.
Okay. Cool.
Exactly.
Cool. So tell us a little bit. There's another thing that you and I talked a little bit about, which is summer snowflake. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I mean, this is, it's funny. This actually comes from overseas. This came from Israel, if you could believe that. But it actually was a very interesting story. And basically, the new idea behind raw materials is multifunction. Everybody wants one ingredient to be able to do multiple things. And the answer to that was the snowflake extract. And basically, the Latin name is kind of a little hard to pronounce, so I'm going to stay with the summer snowflake as the actual name. But yeah, this is a plant extract, and basically this takes a multi-sided approach to skincare, and basically gives you a multifunction targeting different issues that we might encounter with the skin.
Okay.
Basically, we know that it slows down the aging process, which they call the Dorman's effect. It also is known to increase skin's natural defense on the skin, which is also great for when you incorporate this into a sunscreen. And then we also have, of course, the anti-wrinkle effect, basically helping us on reducing those fine lines and those wrinkles that we are always trying to get rid of. And then the last thing that we know that this product can do is it's known to be able to brighten the skin or even the skin tone. So again, we're getting a multi-function out of one ingredient, which is, ideal at this point in the time of the market.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we've done some shows in the past about labels and ingredient lists and things like that, and I've tried to educate consumers on the idea that you really want to look at the ingredient panel, and that the ingredient list is listed in the order of the largest amount. Why is it that so many products, the first or second word in the ingredient list is water?
Well, unfortunately, obviously, in order to make up a full formulation, you need to be able to dissolve the ingredients. So the water that's in the ingredient list is actually your solvent that's actually going to help disperse all the other raw materials that are in there. So water is going to always be the main ingredient, unless we're talking about an anhydrous formulation, which has no water. Then in that regard, you're probably looking at an oil or some kind of glycol that might be your main ingredient. But on the most part, you're always going to see water unless somebody is using, and this really stems towards the organic or natural cosmetic portion of the market, but if they use what they call a hydrosol that has something as sort of like lavender mixed into the water, then you're going to see lavender water as your first ingredient. So, but commonly water will be, DI water is actually what we're using. That will be your first ingredient.
And that's an important aspect, and that is that it needs to be water that's treated in a special way. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do with that.
Well, in regards to DI water, most manufacturers you will find import their DI water. Basically, they're going to an outside source that will basically give them the filtered water that they need to be able to produce the product. This is key in making sure that your product is free and clean of any contaminants and so forth. So using DI water is a very important part of the process.
Richard, give us you're using an acronym DI. What's DI?
Oh, deionized water.
Deionized. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, sorry. And the fortunate thing about Advanced Cosmetics is we have our own DI water system. Basically, we produce our own filtrated water, and we take extended time to be able to get that water tested. It's very important to us that we maintain a clean environment and manufacture these products safely and cleanly. So we test the water and we go through this process, and we're very proud of that.
And that's an important point, and that's one of the things that if you go to AmericanMadeBeauty.com and you look at the brands that are validated as being made in America, one of our criteria is that it is made in a qualified manufacturing facility, and this is a key reason. The water, which is always the primary ingredient, needs to be clean. And in somebody doing product at home in their kitchen, there's no way that they can have product that's going to be clean like this. So these are very important aspects. In the jar, what's in the goop in the jar does make a difference, and working with a qualified person or company makes a big difference. So we're going to take another break. Again, you're listening to Radio AMB. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of my most favorite subjects. We'll talk a little bit about sex. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com.
For all your live or pre-recorded webcasting needs, come to earthchannel.com. Get your web-based message out to a select group or the whole world. It's easy. A pioneer in webcasting, earthchannel.com provides the best products and services to big corporations and government users. And now this same technology is available to you. They have the best Earthcast encoders, servers, and products to meet your technical needs. But wait, don't want to mess with technical stress? No problem. They'll do it for you. EarthChannel.com is your answer. You can use webcasting for lots of things like advertising, marketing, customer support, training, and don't forget web radio and TV. In fact, you're listening to a live Earthcast right now. So come to EarthChannel.com. Actualize your audio or video webcasting needs today. You can't beat the friendly service or the price. Call EarthChannel.com at 1-800-849-8978. That's 1-800-849-8978.
We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
When you're looking for bedding, department store prices can shock you. Well, be shocked no more. Sell steak cheap, not cheap steak. That's the motto of Anna's Linens. Although they don't sell steak, they do sell the best bedding, bath, and home decor items. They strive to provide their merchandise at extreme value to their customers, and they do it. Great everyday prices on everything and military discounts. Plus, if you visit them online, they have clearance items and internet specials. Visit them online now at HealthyLife.net's advertiser page.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
You're listening to RadioAMB on HealthyLife.net. I'm your host, Patty Smucker, and we're here with Richard Garza of Advanced Cosmetic Research Labs. During this segment we call Beauty That's Soul Deep, Richard, let's talk about one of the world's most soul-stirring activities that humans do, making love, or if you want to call it having sex, it's okay. I understand that Advanced Cosmetic Research Lab makes some of the best personal lubricant products in the market. Is that considered a niche?
It is a niche, and then we've seen it kind of boom in the last 3 years. It's so interesting how far lubricants and these novelty products have come in the last few years. You have people like Carmen Electra, who's now come out with her brand of products that are targeting women and things of that nature. So lubricants are kind of evolving over the years, and it's interesting now what they've come up with in today's market.
And what are some of those? The latest trends in lubricants?
Well, they're starting to look at lubricants as more of also coming into the age of treatment, or even trying to target certain conditions, especially when it comes to women. Mm-hmm. Lubricants, I think, for a long time have always been more of a man's product, mm-hmm. and not necessarily thought about for women in general. Mm-hmm. But the newest trend is that now women are being reviewed for the lubricants and thinking of what they would need in the process and
right.
for their pleasure, so to speak.
Right. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So what I was going to say is, some of the things that they're looking at for women is, of course, pH balance and sensitivity and just overall wellness. Mm-hmm. We're looking at even products for the menopausal women who mm-hmm. tend to have some issues in having pleasure in the sex activity. Well, now we've come out with lubricants that are targeting their issues, and hoping that they also will have a niche in the market, that they will have products that they can look to for themselves.
Right. And those are some of the really realities of the world, and I say this often, that we're moving into an era where we're going to have more human beings alive on the planet of the Earth than ever before in the age range of 60 to 90. And what the body looks like, acts like, needs during that 30-year period of time, we just never had a huge population. So these kinds of products, being able to help women as they go through those different stages, it is a reality that the inside of the body needs lubrication and hydration as much as the external part of the body. So that when you're talking about treatments, is there some different things that you're doing in the area of hydrating in the types of personal lubricants that you're using?
That's exactly what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually kind of incorporating the skincare element to lubricants,
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of those ingredients that are going to lubricate the vaginal walls and things of that nature that are needed for women that are having issues in that area.
Right.
And that's how we're approaching it. And we're also approaching the packaging design. Women don't like to have, kind of think more high-end in terms of how they want to think of their lubricant as a cosmetic. So we're kind of considering that in the packaging design. So It's not so generic. It kind of makes it feel like a cosmetic product, and women are more proud of it. And so that's kind of how they're taking these approaches to make women comfortable with these lubricants and being able to carry them.
Absolutely, and it is. It's a booming market, and one where I just think that there's just going to be a tremendous amount of innovation that takes place. So there's another aspect that I know you guys specialize that's also very soul-stirring, and that's for pets and animals. I know that the owner of the company is a huge animal lover with a number of horses that she owns. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're doing with pet products.
Well, of course, pet products have always been out there, and everybody loves their pets as if they're their own children. So the newest trends in the market for pet products is basically really taking that in consideration as if it's your own child. The products that are being developed are going more green in the market, and people are being very conscious about what they use on their pets, whether it's a shampoo or it's a treatment element. That they are very aware of that, and they're paying attention to these ingredients. And as a result, the manufacturing market has to pay attention to this change in trend. They still consider gluten-free in animal products, which is interesting. Because there are pets that have food allergies. So this is the kind of stuff that we have taken in consideration for horses and dogs and cats and things of that nature. So we're looking at the new trend element and taking more care and pride in what's being manufactured for pets.
Right. Now, what would be a difference between a shampoo, for example, that you would sell for a human as compared to one for a dog?
Well, interesting enough, you could technically use both for, a dog shampoo and a human shampoo because, there are products that we've manufactured. There are people-pet products.
Okay. People-pet products?
Yeah, people-pet products where you can use them for you and you can use them for your pet. So that is a new trend that people have kind of followed into, have one product that works for everybody, including the animal.
Everybody in the house.
That's right.
The true modern family.
Technically, you don't really need that much more special, but you are taking consideration more on the skin level for the pets because obviously dogs deal with hot spots, and so we try to formulate products that will target those kind of issues that pets do encounter. So we keep moisture in terms of thought process that they're all high in moisture content, so that for your pets and things of that nature. So that's more or less where we're talking about when we deal with pet products.
Right. And is there a difference in the kinds of products that you would make for taking care of a horse versus a cat versus a dog?
Yeah, obviously we have horses have a different kind of hair structure than you would see on a cat, so we keep that in mind in terms of what the horse need is. So, horses tend to need more shine and silicone type products in their coats to give them that nice shine. Where with a feline product you would probably deal with more of just the coat of the feline, almost like hair, and just deal with just the cleansing portion of it. But unfortunately, some horses are very, there's some sensitivity to horses, so you got to be kind of conscious of that in terms of what you're using and what you put on them. And we've learned that from our owner about the products that we try to develop for them.
Right.
So we do keep that in mind.
Now, and you, the Advanced Cosmetic Research Lab is unique in that they are what's called an OTC, an over-the-counter cosmetic manufacturer, which is regulated. Basically, you can produce sunscreens, which in the United States is considered a drug, and other cosmetics that fall into that drug category. When it comes to pets, do you produce products that are that have active ingredients to deal with things like fleas and dandruff and that type of thing? And would they be considered OTC?
Well, the thing is that really there is no OTC monograph that targets pets.
Okay.
It's really only been structured for humans. And, I mean, not to say that people have not come out with sunscreens for animals and use more of an active ingredient in an animal-type product, but the truth of the matter is it's not been regulated by FDA or either monographed by the FDA as far as we know.
Right.
Not to say that that's not in the process. So, you know, when a person is trying to develop a sunscreen for an animal, the problem is that there's no test protocol that has been done to substantiate the claim. So you would only have to look at it on a human basis and not an animal basis. So therefore, technically, it's not right to have such a product out there in the market, but, you know, it is out there. So it's definitely something that hasn't really been put into a protocol that we could say, yes, there's a sunscreen for animals.
Right. Okay. And you guys also do quite a bit with regards to just in general with making products that are environmentally responsible.
Yeah, you know, that is one thing that we've really come to be more aware of or be more conscious of. You know, surfactants, for example, have gone through another process in their development where they're even having the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency review them and to make sure that they are biodegradable and just good for the environment. There's a new program out there called Design for the Environment that is used for cosmetics. They actually have a website now called cleaningredients.com that you can go to, that you can look up one of those ingredients that you're seeing in your products and see if it's on that list as an approved environmental product that's positively environmentally adding to the environment as opposed to negatively.
Oh, that's great. So cleaningredient.com, and
it's
these are
ingredients
with an S?
No
okay, yeah, so these are ingredients that are a list of banned ingredients that are not beneficial for the environment.
No, actually the cleaningredients.com list is the
ones
good
that are good.
ingredients.
Okay,
they have been approved for the environment.
Okay, perfect. All right, great. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, in our final segment, Beauty Biz, we'll explore the business side of making beauty products and walk through some of the key things that someone who's interested in making a brand needs to consider. Stay with us.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com.
When you're looking for bedding, department store prices can shock you. Well, be shocked no more. Sell steak cheap, not cheap steak. That's the motto of Anna's Linens. Although they don't sell steak, they do sell the best bedding, bath, and home decor items. They strive to provide their merchandise at extreme value to their customers, and they do it. Great everyday prices on everything and military discounts. Plus, if you visit them online, they have clearance items and internet specials. Visit them online now at HealthyLife.net's advertiser page.
We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
Oh, man, it never fails. My suitcase just got ripped apart.
Life is a journey. Make it a pleasant one. Use Samsonite. You know the name. For almost a century, Samsonite luggage has proved itself to be the worldwide leader in innovative travel solutions. Let it be yours. Visit HealthyLife.net's affiliate Samsonite on our homepage and click to look at the fine luggage from suitcases to golf travel bags. And don't forget, take a look at their travel accessories. Make life a journey, a pleasant one, with Samsonite.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
where we share the secrets behind the beauty industry. Our program sponsor today is Free Your Mane. I'm Patty Smucker, and in this segment we call Beauty Biz, we're here with Richard Garza with Advanced Cosmetic Research Lab, one of the leading contract manufacturers in the personal care market. So, Richard, let's talk about, we talked earlier about what happens once a brand owner submits a purchase order to you to start the manufacturing of their product. But there's a ton of things that happen way before that with the purchase order, and it's something that you love to do. So let's talk about where the journey begins in the R&D process. What happens when somebody comes in and says, I want to make a product?
Well, it goes through quite a few steps through in the process. And the first initial step is just understanding what the customer wants from the product and what they expect it to do. So this is really my first process, just speaking to the client, getting their what claims they're looking to make, what they really want the product to function as, what's their demographic. So once I have this understanding, then I can go towards the next step of the process, which basically involves me taking that idea and taking it to our chemist. Basically, I have a meeting with them, and we talk about the claims and what kind of application, whether it's an emulsion or a lotion or a shampoo or a body wash or a liquid of some sort of serum. We try to determine what is the best fit to be able to make this product in terms of the application process. And so once that has happened, the R&D chemist basically writes up this formula and gives it off to the technicians to produce this first sample to get ready to submit to this client and to make sure that we're meeting the specifications that they're expecting once we had our first meeting in regards to the product profile. Somebody will have an idea. They come to you. They say, "This is the idea. This is what I want it to do. This is the end result that I'm going to try for." You guys work with your chemist and basically knowing all of the tools or all of the things in your palette that you can pull together, you determine whether it's feasible to be able to do something like that. Exactly. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of formulas in our libraries, and sometimes it's just a matter of just taking in the ingredient that they are really pushing and adding it to one of them. So that's basically what we will do. We try to look at that process and see, maybe I already have something very in the fit, and that all it needs is us adding their special ingredient to it, and that's how we will get that process rolling.
But let's talk for a moment. If, for example, I come to you and we have an idea, and you make a formula for me, so now you have that formula in your catalog. Will you do that same formula that I inspired you to make for somebody else?
No. Basically what we do is, any formulation I do or any concept or product that somebody comes with me, it's their unique, exclusive formula for them, and that's how we approach it.
Right.
So that idea will never be supplied to anybody else. And we do exclusivity agreements with customers that have a concept. Virtually it's rather than us having to reinvent the wheel, we might just try to see what we have and that's similar to it. But obviously that formulation and that concept idea belongs to that customer and will never be shared with anybody else, just as we were talking about earlier today.
Right. And that's an important aspect, is that you have a catalog of your sort of house formulas that's just sort of your starting place of base formulas. And then from there, they can be customized, but once they are customized, they're exclusive to that particular owner.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly correct.
So once you've come up with the actual the product that they like in their wish list, what's the next step in the process?
Well, the next step is basically stability testing. Basically, we want to make sure whatever we've developed is going to work for 2 years, basically 2-year standard shelf life. So we have a stability testing protocol that we follow before we actually go to the production or manufacturing process. Virtually, this is a 90-day stability cycle. It goes under three stages. The first stage that we do is UV testing, basically just making sure that the product is, when exposed to light, doesn't have any adverse effect. The next stage of this would be freeze and thaw, making sure that the product is stable in extreme temperature, whether it's hot or cold. And then our other stage of the testing process is 45 degrees Celsius oven, which is accelerated oven for 90 days. And basically what this does is tells us, and this is almost equivalent to about 85 degrees or 90 degrees, and basically what this is doing is telling us, is this product stable for the standard 2-year shelf life? And once we go through this process, we can go forward.
Right, and because the best practice in our industry is that product that sits on the consumer market should have a shelf life of a minimum of 2 years. And when we're talking about stability, we're talking about the product, the ingredients within the product, number one, staying together, and the second is that it will not grow bacteria.
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly right,
Okay.
Patty.
And so once you, and just as a little side note, I like to tell people, if you go into a store and you see product on the shelf where the sides of the bottles are collapsing, that's a product that's not stable.
Right.
So that's
And that is correct. And to mention, there are times that the products are not meant to be at a 2-year shelf life, but in that regard, it is notified. Some people do have an 18-month expiration. Mm-hmm. Just depending on what their product is, it can vary, but 2 years is definitely the standard.
Yeah, and it should be on the label if it's
that's correct.
Right.
That's exactly correct.
And so once you go through the stability, then what's the next step?
Well, once we've gone through the stability process, then we're pretty much now ready to go, other than if the client then decides they want to run a compatibility testing.
Okay.
Now, basically what compatibility testing is if the customer wants to supply packaging to us, they want to see how the product will perform in that packaging. This is mandatory if I was running an OTC product. However, on a cosmetic, it's not necessarily mandatory, but it is a good process to follow because we can't always guarantee what's going to happen after the packaging has been fulfilled, and the compatibility testing will identify these issues if there are any. Right. Okay. Great. Well, Richard, it's just such a pleasure to talk to you and bring forward. I've had the pleasure of talking to you for a really long time, right.
But to bring forward and highlight that professionals like yourself that know the business inside and out, and really you're a craftsman. You're working behind the scenes, making art in the form of beauty products. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Patty, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And if somebody wanted to get a hold of Advanced Cosmetic Research Lab, how do they do that?
They can either call us. Our phone number is 818-709-9945. And once they call us, they can reach out for me, Richard Garza, and I'll be happy to help them. Okay, great. Again, thanks very much for being with us. Richard, I'll look forward to talking to you soon. For those of you listening, don't miss some of our upcoming programs. In the next few weeks, we've got some great programs. Next week, we'll meet Dr. Lisa Davis-Hunter talking about beauty and mental health. And the following week, we'll visit with one of the masters behind the camera lens of the most visible beauty brands in the industry, Robert Linden of Soul Icon. Mark your calendars and make sure to tune in every week at 11 o'clock. Send us your questions and comments to requests@AmericanMadeBeauty.com. I'm Patty Smucker. You're listening to Radio AMB on HealthyLife.net. Thank you for listening to Radio AMB, where we think pretty is pretty important in all things in beauty.